The beauty of pursuing dreams is sometimes where you take a passion or a hobby or an interest you have from a very young age and you turn it into something. And with me today, I have my good friend Lee Clayton. Lee, nice to have you here today.
Thank you.
And Lee, you were a foodie way back before it was cool, right?
I was. I mean, I've always been fascinated by cooking and love to cook and eat really delicious food since I was a little girl. And my mother used to tell stories about how she would put me on the kitchen counter when I was like 2 and give me measuring spoons and cups and bowls and sit me next to the sink, and I would imitate her and measure and pretend cook. And then it just kind of went from there.
And when did you have your first cookbook?
My first cookbook? I was probably about 7 or 8. There was a cookbook for kids that the Denver Art Museum put out. I still have it. It's called like a Christmas cookbook or something. If there's a picture of Santa Claus on the front. And I used to make Kris Kringle cookies out of there all the time when I was little.
That's fun. So, Lee, you had a dream around food and around cooking. Would you tell us about your dream?
Well, it's an interesting story. And when I talk to people a lot about pursuing their passion, I think the interesting sort of lesson learned that I can share that I think some other people have is figuring out what your dream is. Because a lot of time you can have a passion and it's right in front of you and you don't really realize that that is really what your dream is.
Okay.
And that's sort of what happened to me. I mean, I always loved to cook and entertain. I had my first dinner party when I was 16. This was in the 70s. Most kids, their parents would go out of town, they go get a keg of beer and have a party. And my friend Lizzie and I had a dinner party. I remember I called up my mom. She was like, "You want to do what?" I go, "We want to have a dinner party." So I started this at an early age. I grew up in a household with parents who loved to cook and entertain. It was very important to my parents to have that sort of one-on-one with people in the home as a way to kind of form bonds, get closer to family and friends. There were dinner parties at least once a week. I have my mother's entertaining diaries, and there were some weeks when she had 3 dinner parties in the same week. She would just do the same menu and make a lot of it ahead and then just repeat it. So it had always been, ingrained in me and part of what I loved, but I didn't really realize that it was my dream and what I wanted to do for a long time. I mean, I was in the cable business, which, as you know, that's how you and I met, and kind of working my way up the corporate ladder and kind of plowing along and having a great time. And then kind of got to the top of the corporate ladder and kind of went, well, okay, this isn't as much fun as I thought it was going to be. And kind of decided, and part of that was how the cable industry had changed. That's another story. But around the same time, I had just moved back from Europe, and my mother was starting to fail. Her health was starting to fail. I mean, she had pretty advanced osteoporosis, and so she couldn't be as active as she once was. She couldn't ski or golf or, couldn't even really go shopping together. It wasn't very comfortable for her. She was on a walker most of the time. But most importantly, she couldn't really cook and entertain. And I got my love of cooking and entertaining from her. It was something she really loved to do. And so we decided to write a cookbook together. I was trying to find something that she and I could still do together that would at least keep her mentally active, because in addition to the physical limitations, she was also starting to have some signs of short-term memory loss.
I see.
And my dad had Alzheimer's at the time, and we knew from our education from the Alzheimer's Association that the less active mom became, the worse her memory loss would be.
Okay.
And plus, it just wasn't as much fun for us. I mean, we weren't cooking together, we weren't shopping together, we weren't playing golf together. We were just watching TV together. And I thought, this isn't good. It's not fun for either one of us. It's not healthy for either one of us or our relationship. So I started knocking around some different ideas with her, and I finally hit on the idea of writing a cookbook together. And she loved the idea. And so that's kind of how we got into this whole thing. And she couldn't really cook anymore, so I was doing all the sort of testing of the recipes, but she was tasting them. I mean, I would make them in her kitchen and ask her questions, and she could really go through all of her recipe boxes and favorite recipes and reminisce about dinner parties and kind of sort of vicariously still be cooking, even though she wasn't really cooking. And so it started as a family project. And then friends and family started to find out about it. We were just going to take it to Kinko's and Xerox it off and give it to my cousins or whatever. And all our other friends and extended family started to find out about it. And they said, no, we love all of your recipes. We love your mom's recipes. You guys have to publish this.
Okay.
And so I started looking into the process, and Mom and I talked about it, and we decided, okay, we'll publish it. And so we self-published. And unfortunately, a couple months before the book came out, my mom passed away.
Oh my.
So she didn't quite make it all the way through, but, she helped select all the recipes. She had edited about 2/3 of the book. She had been the senior editor on several community cookbooks, so she knew what she was doing, and she still remembered that. I mean, she didn't know who the sitting president was or what month it was or, what year it was, but she knew her recipes, and she remembered how to write recipes and edit them and organize them. And I had worked on a couple as well, some with her, some other ones, so we knew a little bit about what we were doing. Put the book together. She missed the photo shoot, unfortunately. But again, she helped pick the name of the publishing company. She'd seen the whole graphic design and approved it. We did the photo shoot, and we were a couple weeks late sending it off to the printer. But my graphic designer called and said, okay, you need to make note of this date because I'm uploading all the materials to the printer now. And I looked at the calendar, and it was September 4th, which was her birthday.
No way.
Well, yeah.
Oh, how nice.
Anyway, that's a kind of a little bit long, but short-winded for me explanation of kind of how I fell into realizing what my dream was. And once I started to get into this, I was still consulting in the cable television business at the same time we were doing the book. But the book came out. It was very successful. Within about 4 or 5 months, we won a gold medal. And I kind of started to realize that I was really having a lot more fun doing this than what I was doing on the cable side, which was still interesting, but the industry had really changed a lot and was evolving in a different way. And it just wasn't as much fun for me. And a lot of that is really because this is where, cooking and entertaining and teaching people how to cook and sharing what I know and giving them advice about entertaining and, getting people back into the kitchen and cooking together and eating together around the table is a big passion of mine. And when I was doing that, it was really a lot more fun. And so all of a sudden I realized that this was really what I should be doing.
Well, it's interesting because you said you started, helping with your mom at the age of 2 and, very young age, mimicking her in the kitchen. And then 16 years old, wanting to do a dinner party instead of having a kegger while the parents are out of town. I mean, and you had this passion, you had this love of food and the love of cooking and the love to do this. And then it wasn't until, you've done that all through your life. I remember you had dinner parties as an adult as well, not just a teenager. But then the family event that transpired with your mother and her failing health, and how can you engage her and keep her in the here and now, essentially, and to capture her wisdom, and her passion that, melded into your own. And then suddenly you have a cookbook out there, and it was more than the cookbook, right? Because you've gone on. What's happened since the book came out?
Well, the book came out, and I really started to focus more in the culinary world. And so I did for about 2.5 years. Once a month, I was on the news here in Denver doing cooking demonstrations. I teach cooking classes. I do cooking demonstrations other places. I develop recipes for different companies using their products. And I speak. I speak about a variety of different topics. I do public speaking. I think, as you remember, when I was in the cable industry, I spoke all the time. So
right.
I could take that years of experience of public speaking and put it here. And I talk to organizations about, taking care of an elderly parent and sharing that information. I talk about very specific, I go and talk to garden clubs about cooking with herbs. And, garden clubs know really well, the people at a garden club know really well how to raise an herb, but I talk to them about harvesting it, storing it, chopping it, how to use it in foods, how to preserve it, that sort of thing. So I talk about that. I talk about pursuing your passion. I talk about my lessons learned in the corporate world. So I speak on a number of different topics but most all of which really all dovetail back into the book.
That's cool.
Yeah. And I go on the road. We have an Airstream trailer, and I go on the road around the country promoting the book and doing cooking demos and book signings.
Fun.
Yeah.
Not bad. If you're going to travel, that's the way to travel, right?
Well, it's great because, if you go on the road as a cookbook author, people want you to, at a minimum, have food samples, if not do a demo.
Right.
And if I don't go in the trailer, you are doing your cooking, you're trying to find a kitchen somewhere to do it in. You're trying to find, or maybe you're in like an embassy suites with a little mini kitchen, but you don't have a blender or Cuisinart there. So it's just you're more limited. I can take all my stuff with me between the Airstream and the car, and I have a place to prep, I have a place to store stuff, and I can get everything ready for my demos. And it works really, really well.
So you have your materials, you know the materials, you got your tools that you're accustomed to. It's not trying to make do with what you find on the road somewhere, which is difficult, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Lee, along the way in this process, what made you believe that you could do this? What was the symbol, the sign that said, I can make this happen? The book and moving on from the book into the whole culinary career side of it?
It was a couple of different things. I think a big one, honestly, was the positive response to the book. Because as I said, it kind of evolved. And honestly, as it was sort of evolving, it was just sort of starting with this project with Mom and then following it through to a natural finish. And I never really thought along the way, oh my God, is this going to be successful? I mean, I guess I knew that so many people loved our recipes and loved coming to our dinner parties, both mine and my mom and dad. Mine and Robert's and my mom and dad's over the years, that I guess I had confidence in the quality of the product. And then the immediate positive response, and then the reinforcement, winning the medal, which was an independent, totally independent, not just friends and family, people who didn't know who we were, acknowledging it. And I think having all those years of experience, as you know, in the cable industry, a lot of my work was marketing, strategic planning, new business development. So I knew that aspect of it. And I also had a research background, which is where I started. And I did a lot of research going into this. Once the book came out, and even while we were doing it, when we decided to publish it, thank goodness for the internet. I mean, I did a ton of research online around, and there was still a lot of things I didn't learn, and I did wrong. But, I learned as much as I could in a short time frame about publishing and about cookbooks and about what needed to be done. And, I kind of learned that publishing a book is really just project management. You figure out the resources that you need to get them in place, and you put it on any kind of a product development timeline, and you just follow it through to the end. The challenge becomes once the product's in your hand, and now you have to market it.
Right.
It's not just build it and they will come. You have to get it out there. And fortunately, I had a marketing background, and I was able, through both the production process and after that, to be fortunate enough to have really good resources to bring in and help me.
Okay.
Because I knew I couldn't do it on my own. I knew I needed to find a really good graphic designer for the book, a really good photographer, a good writer and PR person. And I was able to quickly find those people. And again, I'm working on my second book's at the printer now, and ended up with a different team. My photographer was on sabbatical and some different things that were happening. So, but again, I was able fairly quickly to put together a really solid team to put this book together as well. And I think knowing what your dream is important. You get the belief from knowing what it is, being committed to it, realizing I think you can believe in it when you know and you acknowledge what you can do and what you can't do, and you're able to find the resources to address the latter. And you have a really strong support group around you. I mean, my husband was and continues to be my biggest cheerleader, always right there next to me, supporting me, directing me, providing me advice. When I get like really frustrated or depressed or like, oh my God, nobody's going to like this book. He's like, don't be ridiculous. He's there to provide that support and keep me going.
I think you have so many lessons in there you're sharing with us right now. And one of them I liked is the fact that everything in your life up to that point prepared you for what came next. Your research background, your business background in terms of thinking strategically, and you used that skill set that you developed over the course of your cable career, that then you've just applied it to a different industry, to moving it over there, which is pretty cool. What obstacles did you bump up against? What kind of challenges did you have, and how did you overcome those?
The biggest challenge was learning the publishing side of the business. Like so many businesses, it's been so significantly impacted by the internet and digital distribution. And as a result, is in a constant state of evolution, like so many other businesses, including like the cable business. I mean, again, that's a lesson. I saw that in the cable business. Dealing with a business that was constantly in a state of change wasn't new to me, but it was understanding it in a different arena now. And how cookbooks are really not as affected by ebooks.
Right.
People, as purchases of fiction books and hardback, were kind of declining and ebooks were growing. When my book first came out in 2009, cookbooks were counter-cyclical. They were continuing to grow, and they do today, in hardback, or printed, I should say. It doesn't necessarily have to be hardback, but in printed version, much more so than ebook versions are. I mean, the ebooks are growing, but that's another whole discussion. But and it's interesting, they're counter-cyclical, and my research kind of indicated there's two reasons why. And the two books that tend to be counter-cyclical are reference manuals and coffee table books. Those people still want to buy, for the most part, that are tangible. And cookbook fits both those. It can fit both those categories. Mine does. Because mine's a hardback Smithsonian with a dust jacket, so it is a coffee table book. It can be. I can't tell you how many people tell me it sits out on their counter or on the table in their den because it's such a beautiful book. And it has 4-color photography and, very nice graphic design. So, we fit both those categories, but understanding and keeping up with what's going on in this world, because even though hardback books are still selling, there's different things that you have to be on top of to maximize that. Plus, understanding what's going on the retail side. 2009, when my first book came out, independent bookstores were really struggling. I met with a lot of them when we were on the road, and I got a handful of them to pick up my book, but they were really trying to get themselves sorted. I was just talking to a consultant a couple weeks ago, who told me independent bookstores are really hot right now, and they've figured out their market. And they know they're back, they're making revenues again, they're focusing on a certain demographic market, which happens, according to this consultant, to be my market. So she said, 6 years ago, I would have told you to deprioritize them. She said, now you need to put them at the top of your list. So it's keeping on top of those sorts of things is always a big challenge. Understanding, when I printed my book, China, Singapore, least expensive place to print. I did it in Singapore. Well, the printer that I used, it was getting too expensive for him to print Singapore. He moved to Taiwan, trying to get his costs down. Now he's somewhere back in China. So, keeping top of all of that as China is developing, their labor costs are going up, which is bringing their competitiveness down a little. They're still less expensive in the printing world, but it's getting closer. And, I don't know, maybe the time my book that's out there now, maybe when I go to reprint that in a few years, I might actually be able to print it in the US. Wouldn't that be nice?
That'd be cool. Yeah.
And so keeping on top of all of that, keeping on top of the trends and really trying to understand in the food world, what's a short-term trend, what's really a change in people's eating habits, and what are people thinking and feeling about different things. Like I have a lot of more and more friends that have celiac and are going gluten-free. And so I was going to start to put some of that in my book. And it's really interesting. There's just as big of a group out there who are irritated to death by all these diets. And they're like, if you put that gluten-free or any of that other stuff in your book, I'm not going to buy it. I'm like, really? So like with my first book, if you go to my website, you can download a gluten-free guide to my first book, A Well-Seasoned Kitchen. And so if you are gluten-free, you can download that. It tells you which ones are naturally gluten-free and then how to adapt, a whole bunch of the rest of them.
Right.
And so I sort of made the decision with the second book to do that based on what I'm seeing in the trends now. I can change that at the reprint if, it continues to be something that's important to people, but it was very polarizing in my research.
Interesting.
So I decided to do it the same and do it, but leave it out of the book so the people who want it can get that. But the people who don't have to have it in there.
Right. So trying to find a solution, try to mix those up there.
Yeah, and like different things, because you want to be current, but you don't want to be viewed as trendy. I want my books to be the kind of cookbook that 20 years from now people are still cooking out of. And the good news is my first one, which is now 6 years old, people who I meet who have my book still tell me they cook out of it all the time. And that's what I want. That means it's not trendy. And so you have to kind of figure out, okay, is kale here to stay? Or in 5 years from now, are people going to go, oh, this book was written in 2015 because it's got all these kale recipes in it?
Right. Interesting.
You have to try and figure that out as best you can.
I never thought about it being so trend-based, but it makes sense now that you say that.
You need to figure out what's a short-term blip and what's really a change in eating behavior. Like my next book is called Fresh Tastes from a Well-Seasoned Kitchen, and it focuses on a fresh perspective on old classic recipes, but also within that, using fresh ingredients when and where possible. Because my belief and all the research I've done has shown that this desire of people to eat more fresh food isn't just a short-term trend. This is really where people are going, because they're understanding, especially with the baby boomers as they get older and get more health conscious, they really are starting to understand that eating more with fresh foods and less with processed foods is really better for you. And the good news is fresh foods are becoming more and more available, even if it's fresh frozen. I mean, they're getting out there a lot more.
Right.
And, there's more and more local, farmers markets and access, and a lot of the, what do they call them, food deserts are now slowly being filled in these urban areas. So it's becoming more accessible. And as it becomes more accessible, it's becoming more affordable. I mean, Walmart's starting to finally have more and more organic foods and fresh foods.
Yeah.
And once they got on that bandwagon, it really increased availability.
That's cool. Along the journey here, what's been some of the biggest surprises you've encountered?
That's an interesting question. I think, biggest surprises, probably again, just in the little things, but they all had to do with stuff in the publishing world. Like Publishers Weekly will only review your book before it comes out.
Okay.
But it's like, they want a galley copy. They want to review it before it's available. I mean, there's little things like that were surprises to me that I didn't understand. That the press wants a galley copy to review. They want to review it before it comes out, not just Publishers Weekly, but a lot of other ones. So you have to sort of figure out what the heck is a galley copy, which again, when you're in the fiction world and you're just black and white copy, running off of just a local inexpensive printer, a copy of your book for somebody to read is one thing. But when you're a food book with photography and graphics and a lot of things that sell it, it's a little bit more of a challenge to figure out how to do that. So I think that was a big surprise for me, kind of dealing in that whole area. I think, I don't know if it's a surprise, but a huge challenge is managing social media, because when my book first came out, Facebook was fabulous because I had my page, I could post on there, everybody connected to me, would see all my posts, I got all this interaction. And then now, if you don't pay, very few people see, or significantly fewer people see your posts. And so how do you manage that and within a reasonable budgetary standpoint? Because, I have people who help me with my social media strategy and implementing that. But, we're posting 3 or 4 times a week. I mean, it would quickly use up my budget if I have to pay them. So then if I have to pay to post every post. So that is sort of a challenge to sort of figure out how to manage that. And I think the surprise part was how frequently Facebook keeps changing the algorithm and changing what they're doing. So as soon as you finally kind of figure it out and, my views start to go up, then they change it again.
Right.
I know another big surprise was I had redone my website starting in 2013 and we finished, I can't remember when we launched it, late 13, 14. And everything, and it was beautiful and it came out. And within a couple months after that, something changed in the technology and all of a sudden it didn't work on mobile devices.
Oh, wow.
And then, so it's like I just spent 6 months and all this money redoing it, and then I had to do it again. Unfortunately, I did, because I was like, oh, I should just wait. And then I thought, no. I started looking at my stats, and 60% of the people that had gone to my website before we changed it came from a mobile device.
Right. It's only increasing.
Well, and then fortunately I did do it, because about 2 or 3 months after we launched the one that works beautifully in mobile, Google came out and said, if your site doesn't work in mobile, if somebody searches, we're not even going to have you come up. I mean, they were like, you don't work in mobile, forget it. And so, that was kind of keeping up with the technology is where the surprises are, I guess, would be the short answer, because that's really what's happening in social media and the web and with mobile. I think the number of people that are accessing recipes online and really by their phone is interesting. I have an ebook version of my cookbook now. That was another surprise or challenge, is how nobody has yet figured out how to take a cookbook style book that works in print and make it also work as an ebook. Every year I go to the culinary conference and they're always talking about this. Books that are designed as an ebook work fine as an ebook, but most books are designed to be a print book and then have an ebook version, and the ebook versions are just clumsy. And it's actually a challenge I've given to the people that are working on the production of my print book, is to see if we can't solve this,
Oh, interesting.
to figure out how to do this. And they're excited about it and have some ideas. And it's interesting because the agency I'm using to do that, their sister company is a printing company. So they have a lot of this knowledge right under their roof. So it'll be interesting to see, but that's a kind of a surprise/challenge, is trying to solve that nut, because I think that could be really big. I mean, I have to kind of think about it, because honestly, I've run into people who buy my book and, they're wealthier and they're like, oh, I own 3 copies of your book. I have one in each of my houses. And I'm like, well, okay, if it was an ebook, they would only buy it once for, $5 instead of 3 books at $34.95. But on the other hand, if they're using it more and talking about it more, then I think I'm happy.
Yeah, time will tell.
But I think most of the people that are out there would probably do both. They would want to have a hard copy, but then you'd also want to have the ebook. Because the beauty of an ebook is, you can check the recipes while you're at the grocery store.
Yeah, it's very true. A lot of benefits to having an electronic version of it, for sure. Lee, some amazing obstacles that you've encountered. Totally foreign industry from what you worked in for many, many years, and trying to learn the ins and outs of publishing and everything. Based upon the whole experience from when you were 2 years old up to writing the book with your mother, up through launching an entire business around this, any other advice you have for other people who are pursuing their dreams?
Have a lot of money in your savings account, because it's not the same as a corporate salary. And you need to be prepared for that, if that's the kind of change you're making. The good news is, my expenses went down as well. I didn't need to have, fancy Armani suits. And, even when I go to do my cooking demos, I'm usually wearing an apron or just a nice pair of pants and a shirt. My expenses went down, but there's an adjustment time period that you go through when all of a sudden you don't have that nice big paycheck coming in every month. You need to have savings so that you can get through that transition comfortably without totally stressing out. And you need to have a conversation with your spouse, if you're married, or significant other, around what those implications are going to be. So you're going into it both understanding, because, some people might get lucky and within a couple months going over, boom, all of a sudden they're making all this money. But it takes a couple years to build, several years, 3 to 5, to build a business to the point where you are really having a revenue stream that you can really manage and understand.
That's well put. It's so true. People think it's overnight success. Most people who are overnight successes, it's not overnight. It's a long process to get there. And then you suddenly emerge on the scene as being a success when they're 3 to 5 years behind that of a lot of hard work, a lot of stressful evenings. But what you've shown and what you've proven is that if you persevere, if you stick to it, follow your dream, work on it, continue to refine, continue to learn, you can make it happen.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to make mistakes, because you will, and then you just have to kind of learn from them and move on. And, resource. Bring in as many people, talk to as many people as you can that know the stuff that you don't know. That's why I go to this culinary conference every year. It's not inexpensive. This year I couldn't, because we were right in the middle of the photo shoot for Fresh Tastes. But because you can learn at those things. And it's like our old days when we used to go to CTAM, the Cable Marketing Conference. You learn from the panels, but you learn from all the hallway conversations. There's all these other cookbook authors there, and there's all these experts and people who've been at it for years. And so if you can find those kind of resources, they're invaluable, I think.
That's great.
And bring them in to help you achieve what you want to achieve and learn what you don't know.
This is great. Lee Clayton Roper, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Your website is awellseasonedkitchen.com.
Right, or any derivation of that. You can go to A Well Seasoned Kitchen, Well Seasoned Kitchen, or just seasonedkitchen.com, and they will all take you to my site.
Excellent. For Expelli, I'm Dennis Hodges. Dream, believe, do. That's it.
Thank you.
Before you go, if you'd like a transcript of this podcast, please go to expelli.com/blog. Also, I'd love to hear from you. Feel free to write me at dennis@expelli.com, or you can leave comments on expelli.com in the blog or contact areas. Finally, please follow us on social media. On Facebook at facebook.com/expelli, and on Twitter where I am at Dennis Hodges. Thanks.